For review purposes only. Watch the original film at Netflix, Paramount Plus, HBO Max, Prime Video, Apple TV, or Vudu. The story begins at the business end of a gun barrel. A chicken, its legs tied, breaks free and runs in a panic down a dirt road. Chasing it from behind is a group of young men armed with pistols, laughing with glee. At the other end of the same road stands Rocket, a skinny young man with a camera in his hand. In front of Rocket is the gang chasing the chicken. Behind him, police who have just arrived appear on the scene. In one moment that crystallizes his entire fate, prompting a flashback of memories, Rocket is trapped in the middle, a living symbol of a man destined to be a spectator for life in a war that isn't his own. The scene then spins rapidly around him, and in a transition both magical and brutal, the audience is hurled over a decade into the past. We land in a different era, specifically the 1960s. Cidade de Deus, City of God, is still new, and a group of teenagers dubbed the Tender Trio carry out small robberies to survive. Here, we meet Buscade, Rocket's real name, and we also meet his acquaintance, Lil Dice, who will later become known as Zé Pequeno. During a motel robbery that was supposed to be bloodless, the young Lil Dice, initially tasked with keeping watch outside, suddenly decides to open fire on everyone inside. He does this not out of necessity, but to unleash his brutal desires. The satisfied smile on his childish face is the birthmark of a psychopath. The blood on that motel floor is the fertilizer that will nourish the reign of terror he is destined to build. The scene then jumps to the 1970s, where City of God has evolved. Lil Dice has now transformed into Zé Pequeno, crowned as the new ruler. With a vicious cunning and boundless ambition, he systematically massacres all rival drug bosses using ruthless strategies. One such massacre occurs at a hotel party, where he and his henchmen sweep through every room to execute their targets. This scene is directed with a deadly rhythm, a macabre dance between pulsing disco music and the sudden eruption of gunfire. Rocket, who happens to be there, once again becomes an unwilling witness, his eyes recording every horrific detail of Lil Zé's actions. Amid Zé's absolute power emerges the only counterbalance, Bené. He is Zé's right-hand man, but also the only person Zé has trusted since childhood. Bené possesses a charisma and sense of humanity that earns him respect from everyone in City of God. Rocket, now taking his camera more seriously, sees in Bené a possible way out of the brutality, proof that one can succeed without losing one's soul. However, in this ecosystem, an intact soul is a liability. During a vibrant farewell party for Bené, where he plans to leave the criminal world, a stray bullet tragically hits Bené. The last person bridging the world of humanity and that of demons is shot and killed. His death is not merely the death of a character, it is the final death of the very concept of harmony in City of God. With Bené gone, Zé Pequeno becomes unstoppable. He rapes Knockout Ned's girlfriend to demonstrate his absolute dominance. This act ignites a new war, this time with Knockout Ned, a war veteran and good man whose family fell victim to Zé's cruelty. Ned, who initially rejected violence, is finally forced to take up arms. The war between them shreds the last remnants of order in City of God. In this conflict, there are no heroes. Only victims who turn into executioners, in an endless cycle of vengeance. Rocket is tossed between both sides, his small camera becoming his only weapon for survival and simultaneously a snare that could kill him at any moment. The plot then leads us to the peak of the collapse. Rocket accidentally takes a dramatic photograph of Zé Pequeno. The photo is published in a major Rio newspaper, making him famous and thrusting him into the national spotlight. As the gang war reaches its climax, the police finally intervene, not to uphold the law, but to clean up the mess in their own way to secure their own interests. During an ambush, Rocket once again finds himself in the middle, this time witnessing the police execute a gangster and plan to pin the blame on a rival gang. With camera in hand, he possesses the evidence. But in City of God, evidence is the most worthless commodity because everyone chooses to turn a blind eye to the brutality. Zé Pequeño's end comes not from his great rival, Ned, and not from the police. It comes from the generation below him, a bunch of young street kids nicknamed the Runts. These children, who grew up witnessing Zé as both an idol and a nightmare, finally corner and casually gun him down. Zé's death is not heroic, it is absurd, quick, and meaningless. The king is overthrown by power-hungry, even more remorseless little proletariats. And when Rocket successfully takes the final photo of the dying tyrant, he is no longer just a witness. He becomes the official chronicler of a now perfected cycle. The plot of City of God is not merely a crime chronicle. It is a blueprint for how structural poverty, in the context of a developing nation during those years, doesn't just create conditions for crime, but actively engineers it. The film meticulously shows the stages. Crime begins as a subsistence economy, hijacking gas trucks to sell the contents for survival money. This is a direct response to the absence of jobs and acute poverty. When the state is absent, the power vacuum is filled by the cruelest and most organized actor. Zé doesn't just sell drugs, he establishes a parallel government. He becomes the law enforcer, the employer, and the security guarantor. The involvement of children, the Runts, is not spontaneous crime, but systematic recruitment into the only institution that appears stable and offers vertical mobility. Violence becomes the only language, eroding all social bonds and humanity. Ben's death and the dark turn of Ned show how even good people are corrupted by the darkness or cast aside. The climax is the regime change by a new, more brutal generation, proving the problem is the system, not the individual. The root cause lies in the barren geographical environment, a lack of investment in education and infrastructure, and a repressive, corrupt police force. The film cynically shows that state intervention, in this case, by the police, only occurs when violence threatens order outside the favela, and is carried out with methods just as brutal as the gangsters, thereby only prolonging the cycle for years to come. City of God ends its story with its most bleak image, the Runts, now in control, pose casually and proudly beside Zé's corpse. They have already divided the territory, planning new drug ventures. Rocket finally walks away, perhaps toward a career in photojournalism. Yet, this small individual victory is drowned by the reality the film conveys, the brutality production machine is still running. City of God will continue to produce new Zés, terrified Rockets, and Benes who die young. The dense plot, focused solely on the internal ecosystem, is a perfect metaphor for the trap of poverty and violence, a vicious cycle that consumes the young. This film is not just a story, it is an autopsy report of a civilizational failure, a report delivered with a rhythm and visual power that never forgets the reality behind every horrifying crime statistic. The film is adapted from a novel by Paulo Lins, who grew up in Cidade de Deus. However, Lins is not Rocket. He was more of an intelligent observer and survivor who later spent 8 years conducting anthropological research and interviewing over 200 people to write his book, published in 1997. Rocket's character is largely inspired by Wilceo Rodrigues, a Brazilian photographer who indeed grew up in a favela and used photography as his way out. Some photos taken by actor Alexander Rodrigues in the film are replicas of Wilceo's original work. The film was not shot in the real Cidade de Deus. Producers deemed it too dangerous. Instead, they built a perfect replica of the favela on an open field in Barra de Tijuca, Rio de Janeiro. However, most of the cast were actual residents from various favelas, including Cidade de Deus. Director Fernando Meirelles and casting director Marieta Severo scouted for 6 months. They met with over 2,000 young people from Rio's favelas, not looking for actors, but for the essence or spirit of the characters. Only a few main roles, like Mateus Nachtergaele as Carrot, were played by professional actors. These newcomers then underwent an intensive 6-month acting workshop. They didn't just learn to act, they built relationships like family or a gang, lived together, and created authentic group dynamics. For instance, Leandro Firmino, Zé Pequeno, and Felipe Haagensen, Ben A, genuinely developed a deep friendship chemistry off set. The name, Zé Pequeno, Little Zé, is a taunt given for his small stature, which only fuels his frustration and violence. Bene is short for Benedito, the blessed one, ironic given his fate. Rocket, Buscape, literally means foot hunter, alluding to his desire to run away. The script was rejected by almost all major Brazilian studios for being too dark, too violent, and lacking a marketable protagonist. It was eventually financed by TV Globo, Brazil's largest network, and the government agency Ensign, on a relatively modest budget. The film was nominated for 4 Academy Awards: Director, Cinematography, Editing, Adapted Screenplay, a rare feat for a foreign-language film. It also won the BAFTA for Best Film Not in the English Language. The film sparked a national debate in Brazil about poverty, violence, and the neglect of favelas. Then-President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva publicly praised it and used it as a catalyst to discuss social policy. However, it was also criticized by some for potentially glamorizing violence or stigmatizing favela residents. The film's success spawned a TV prequel series, City of Men, Cidade dos Homens, which ran for 4 seasons and featured several cast members. This series was later adapted into a feature film of the same name in 2007. The running chicken and who's the bravest to shoot scenes have become iconic, frequently parodied and referenced in media worldwide. Zé Pequeno often appears on greatest movie villains lists. Tragically, some background actors and crew fell victim to real-life favela violence after the film's success, highlighting how close fiction was to reality. These pieces of trivia reinforce that City of God is not just a cinematic masterpiece, but also an ambitious social and cultural project where the line between film and reality was deliberately blurred, leaving an impact that endures long after the final credits roll.